Welcome to Chapter 3, Perceiving Ourselves and Others. For Chapter 3, we're going to talk about how do we perceive others. So it's basically how do you understand other people? What are your thoughts about them? How we explain our perceptions. So what are we telling ourselves about what we just learned about somebody or why we might react in a certain way to a certain situation or person? How we perceive ourselves is very important to monitor your thoughts about yourself, and then managing our image. So the facade or the image that you want to display to others. How we perceive others. So there are 3 stages of perception. First, there is the selection. So it's what we choose to pay attention to. Usually what we deem important is what we pay attention to. So if you are really into hair, whether for yourself or for others, that's what you'll notice in other people. Maybe if you're really into shoes, you'll probably notice their shoes. If you're really into teeth and smiles, then that will be something that you notice on everybody that you encounter. And then we have organization. So it's how we classify the stimulus. So a stimulus could be something that's internal or external. And in this situation, we're paying attention to other people. So it would be an external stimulus. So the physical constructs, it could be maybe the shade or hue of their skin tone. It could be the shade or hue of their hair, their role. So do you look at them as someone that you admire? Are they a role model? Are they your boss? Is it somebody that you feel is inferior to you? And if you feel they're inferior, then you might want to think about why. Interaction constructs, so the way we interact with a person. Maybe you feel like they come off too strong, maybe they're too soft and you can't really hear them. That depends on how you perceive that interaction with them. You might have had a good experience with this person, you might have had a negative one. So that will determine your perception of them. And psychological constructs. So what do you think or what do you feel? Like, are you somebody that feels other people's vibes? Do you feel like you're really good at reading people? Do you have the gift of discernment? So all those things would fall into the psychological constructs. And then we have interpretation. So what meaning do we give to the stimulus? So it usually depends on the situation, who you are, how you interpret things. But we all give meaning to who we meet and how we meet people. How we perceive others continued. So the process of understanding somebody or having a perception about them, is it linear? It's not like you go through the selection, organization, and then interpretation. You might bounce back and forth. For some people, it's like your initial encounter with somebody might be all you think about. However, for others, if you see them in a different situation or a different light, or maybe they were having a bad day when you first met them, all of that might play into your perceptions of them. How we perceive others continued. So different things influence how we perceive others. It could be from where we're from, our culture, co-cultures, other groups that we're part of, and then also stereotypes. So stereotypes that you might have seen on TV or heard about or assumed, read in books. Then the primacy and recency effect. So the primacy effect is maybe you judge the person off of your first encounter, and the recency effect is more likely for you to judge the person off of the most recent or the last encounter you had with them. And then a perceptual set is the last one, and it is a predisposition to perceive only what we want or expect to perceive. So in any situation, if you already have the stereotype or assumption about somebody, then your perceptual set will sort of solidify that in your mind and make it real. How we explain our perception. So attributions are the explanations we give for our own behaviors or for someone else's behavior. And so we can use 3 factors in order to judge someone or their behavior. And first we have locus. So locus could be where the cause of behavior is located. So think locus, think located. So is it something that's internal? Do they have something biological going on? Or is it something that's external, meaning that maybe they were in a situation and that's what caused this behavior to take place? And then we think of stability. So it's the second dimension of the attribution, and it's whether the cause of the behavior is stable or unstable. So is this something that was permanent, Like, is it something that they can't change? Is it something like it is what it is? Or is it something that was out of their control? Like, does somebody have a flaw that makes them late because they just don't care about other people? Or were they late to the meeting because of traffic or there was a car accident on the highway? So that would be if it's stable or unstable. Unstable is if they don't have like control over it. And then we think of controllability. So was this something under the person's control, or was it something that was also out of their control? So if someone's late, as far as controllability, which is similar to stability, you might feel like, oh, it is them, that's just who they are. And if something is uncontrolled, it could have been, well, there was a car accident as far as stability, so it wasn't something that's permanent, and it was out of their control. How we explain our perceptions continued. So the self-serving bias is basically a part of an attribution error, and we assume that anything positive that happens is because we are great and we deserve it and we're the best. And if you're in a situation that's negative, you would assume it wouldn't be your fault. It would always be the other person's fault. So that could be maybe the grade that you receive. You might feel like it's your teacher's fault, or maybe you have someone in your house that's too loud, so you blame them. You might not see it as something that you had any part of. And the fundamental attribution error. So we assume that if we see someone in a situation, it's because that's who they are. So if you see somebody in an argument, you might assume, oh my gosh, they're aggressive, they're like a bad person. However, maybe someone hurt someone in their family, so that's why they're being aggressive in the situation, but since we don't know the background information, we just assume that that behavior is who they are. How we perceive ourselves. So who are you? Your self-concept reflects your ideas about who you are. So you might have some thoughts of how to describe yourself. So if I was like, describe yourself in 5 phrases or words, then that would be your self-concept. It might be your morals, it might be your religion, it might be if you're a parent, it might be if you feel like you're smart, all those things. You feel like you're very pretty, and then your self-concept is your identity. So all those things about your religion, your morals, being smart and pretty and all that basically forms your identity. How we perceive ourselves continued. So the Johari window is a self-concept of how we can describe ourselves. It's multifaceted, so it's almost like you're looking at yourself and you're investigating yourself. So you're describing and investigating yourself. And it's from 2 psychologists. So one was Joseph Left and one was Harry Ingram. And so I'm not going to make you do this. This usually would be an activity that we would do in class, but I wouldn't collect it because it could get personal. So we have this table. We have things that we know about ourselves and things that are known to others. And that would be things that we're open with. So for me, I'll use myself as an example. And for the open box, I would put that I'm a mother. I mean, that's obviously, if you see a lot of pictures of me, I usually have my little baby with me. Then we have known to self and unknown to others. So as far as being hidden, since you guys don't know me, you might not know that I have pancreas issues, unless you've already met me on campus somewhere. So that would be known to myself, but it would be unknown to you guys. So that would be hidden. And then unknown to self but what is also known to others would be things that are blind. So what others know about me, but I don't recognize in myself. So the example I like to use is I get hung up on words in conversations, and it actually took different friends in different situations to point it out to me because I was just blind. Like, I was blind to it. I had no idea. But if someone says, something in a conversation and I have a question about that, and then they're like, oh no, I didn't mean it that way. This is how I meant it. Well, for me, I've really worked on this, but I would be like, no, because this is what you said, right? So you meant that. And they would be like, no, I meant it this way. And I'd be like, are you sure? And that could probably be really annoying, but that's something that over time I've adjusted. And then unknown to self and unknown to others would be the unknown box, the last box. And that would be things that you can't possibly know about yourself. So, I would not know how it would be if I were to have multiple kids, since I only have 1 kid, and other people wouldn't know exactly how it would be either. Like, how much would I work? Would I still go to school? Would I be a good balance with my kids? You know, so those would be things that I wouldn't fully know and no one else would know either. So that's basically what the Johari window is. I hope that made sense. If you want to, you can draw yourself a little table and try it out and see. But I'm not going to make you do it and I'm not going to quiz you on it. But it's just something just for you to have an idea of. Continuing on with how we perceive ourselves. So we have self-concepts that are objective and subjective. So objective things are facts about yourself. So if your hair is brown, you know, that's a fact. Me, I'm 5'5", so that's a fact. Those would be objectives. Subjective things would be like opinions. Like, I consider myself smart, really smart. So that's an opinion about myself. It could be evaluated by a test or some sort, maybe some questions you might have that you might ask for me to determine if you feel like I'm smart or not, but that would be like subjective, my opinion. Or I feel like the U.S. should fix this healthcare issue that we're all dealing with. I think it should be provided for everyone. Now, for everybody, that's not a thing. People feel like it should cost. People feel like it should be more affordable, but still have a price. People don't feel like you know, it should come out of our taxes or things like that. So all of that would be an opinion, and those would be subjective. How we perceive ourselves continued. So we manage our self-concepts through self-monitoring. And when we monitor ourselves, we think about the way we look, the way we act, the way we present ourselves, the way we dress. So it just depends where you fall on the spectrum. So when I lived in California, it was like a big thing for us not to have flyaways. So we would literally be in the bathroom before work, like fixing our hair, fixing our makeup, and like for the flyaways, you would have to like use like a toothbrush and whatever paste or cream or spritz or spray, whatever for your hair type to like fix it so you don't look what we would deem messy. So when I moved to Texas, we didn't have to do that. I realized, oh my gosh, I'm actually more relaxed. I don't have to monitor myself as much. But growing up in California, that was the norm. And then when I moved out of there, it was like I was usually overdressed to situations or events or even sometimes to work because it's different with how I have to self-monitor myself. So my self-monitoring right now is lower since I usually don't wear makeup anymore, but you know, back in California, I would say it was definitely higher. Self-fulfilling prophecies. So these can be good or bad. In a negative way, an example would be like before you get into this relationship with somebody, maybe you're like, well, this isn't going to end well. We're going to fight all the time. I don't know if I could trust them. So you have all these thoughts, right? And then because of those thoughts, you might pick at situations that aren't even there as far as trust, or you might, you know, pick arguments or, you know, feel like, oh, so they don't want to argue with me, like they don't care about the situation as much as I do. They don't value it. So the situation isn't working. And like, so all your thoughts are completely thinking the relationship isn't going to work. So you start to mirror those behaviors of believing it's not going to work. And then before you know it, you guys are broken up and you're kind of like, why? Well, if you thought of yourself and monitored yourself and thought of your self-fulfilling prophecy, then you would see like, oh, I was part of placing this situation into effect. I spoke it into existence and I monitored those behaviors for it to exist, so now it exists. Also, we could do it in a positive way. So if you tell yourself every day, like, I'm smart, I'm important, you know, I could do well in school, I'm going to get all my work done, you keep telling yourself that, and then you monitor the behaviors to make sure you get those things done, then before you know it, you're going to have a great grade, and then you're going to be like, well, it's all because I believed in myself and I exhibited the behaviors. I didn't just believe in myself, I put work into action, and now I have great grades. So self-fulfilling prophecies could be good or they could be bad. Self-esteem is very important. Self-esteem does come from self. However, it's also rooted in how we grew up, depending on who we were around and what was fed into us. So that could be your family, it could be friends, it could be the type of school you went to, or the type of teachers you had. Anybody can leave an impression, can have an effect on your self-esteem. But self-esteem is very important for relationships. It'll help you stick up for yourself. It'll help you be yourself and love yourself for who you are. Managing our image. So we manage our image in multiple situations. It could be the image that we present online, the image that we present at work, the image that we present at school, the image that you might present on your first dates. So we have various types of images that we like to uphold. Now, when you think of face, think of managing your image. The face is basically your facade. It's the picture that you want people to see, because you don't want to reveal your true self. And of course, we can do that in various situations. If you're at work, of course, you're not going to be the same person you are at home. And the pictures we choose to put online is managing our face work. Also, maybe the way you do your Instagram, any of your social media. So, of course, you're not going to show everything that goes on in your daily life. So that's what we call face work. Continuing with managing our image, so we manage 3 face needs. We have fellowship face, and that's the need to be liked and accepted by others. So humans aren't meant to be alone. That's just not how we were created to be or made to be. We have failure to thrive if we're alone. So we want other people to like us. It could be family members, friends, your bosses, your coworkers, but we have a need to be liked by others because we're not meant to be alone. And then autonomy face is the need to avoid being imposed on by others. So if you feel like someone's trying to boss you around or be too controlling in any situation, or maybe you might use the phrase, I'm not that good with authority, but that might just mean that you'd rather be your own boss in a situation. So that's our autonomy face. And then our competence face is the need to be respected and viewed as competent and intelligent. So it's the need to have people respect you, treat you well, value your opinion. You don't want people thinking you're just like an idiot or ignorant in a situation. So that is our competence face. Managing our image. So face threatening acts. So those are behaviors that can change who we are or threaten who we are. So the book gives an example of elderly people, if they are going through dementia or Alzheimer's or even like a disease like multiple sclerosis, and they could be younger, maybe they're losing their autonomy as far as getting things done. So they might not be able to clean themselves. They might not be able to take as many walks, hold the same jobs. So that would be something that threatens who they are. So that would be threatening their face needs. And it usually happens to marginalized groups. We could think of the LGBTQ population. So maybe if certain laws are enacted that says, like, if there were laws saying that people could not be married and they were part of the gay population, so that would threaten their face needs, their need to be loved and to belong, and maybe have health insurance coverage or managing the person's health, or to be part of their will automatically or their estate. So those things will also be face threatening.